Oh, dear me. Start as you mean to go on, eh? Hello there, everybody. Welcome along to Talking Con. This is where the graphics have just completely crapped out on that. Right then. Hello there, everybody. Welcome along. Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name is Leonard Sultana. And each and every Sunday from here on in, we're going to be talking comics, Comic-Cons, and all the stuff and nonsense we get to enjoy at such shows. Hello. Am I sweating a bit? I feel really nervous about this. I have no idea why. But no, welcome along. We've got one or two people who are joining us on the chat already. We've got Chuck Cook who's saying, "Get it back again." I get the reference. I know. I'm not doing. Yeah, create a monster because no one wants to see Lendham or you chop liver. They want Englishman at STC. That's what you give them. Don't expect me to start rapping anytime soon because it's not going to happen. First technical issue for the season. Yes, well, you know what? The countdown stopping, it's not just me. And yes, new music for a reason. Because, well, just turn that around a little bit. Yeah. Every single time that I played the music that we did have, which was from a free music site, at which point I thought, you know what, I like that music and it's royalty free, so I should be okay. At which point, suddenly about the back end of last season, it just sort of ended up just demonetizing every video, pretty much putting the channel at risk because it turned around and said, no, you're using copyright music, can't be using that. So it all went a little bit pear-shaped. So you know what? I went, I'm going to actually have a look at some proper royalty-free music, and that's what I did, and that's what we're using. Hope you likes that. So please do, any comments? Let me know. Is this too blue? Because I can actually, I've got the lights up. I've got some lights behind me. I mean, I can. That looks rather cute. A little bit of teal going on there. A bit of purple. Yeah, I mean, I could go all sorts, but let's go with let's go with that. That looks rather cute. Anyway, but no, any comments, any questions, anything about the music, anything about the graphics you want me to change? What do you think about the graphics, by the way? If I get that back up and running, I might be able to bring some graphics your way. But no, we've got a little bit of a new look, and hopefully like the new color scheme as well, because I put it out to the vote and people voted for it. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't the one that the missus wanted. She wanted the purple, but this is the one we've gone for, which is the blue and the yellow, and it has been voted by yourself. Although it's got to be said, I have already had comments that it happens also to be the color scheme. So it's blue, yellow, and red. Blue, yellow, and white for Leeds United. I am not a football fan. This was a complete coincidence. So that's not to do with me. Okay. But it was the color. Although that being said, I've also got the orange one, which was an option, and I like the orange one. Chuck put this comment forward, and I quite liked it, which was to use that for Halloween. I like that. I think we'll maybe not for the Halloween season. I'm not one of these people that once September 1st kicks in, I'm not the full month of Halloween. Maybe that week we'll turn it orange and we'll put a little pumpkin in the corner just for that particular episode for Halloween. So there we go. Chuck Cook, I dig the new thing. Thank you. Like I say, I save a lot of trailer music that gets sent to me, music that's been done by professional companies that do trailer music, and that happened to be one of them. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I thought it was I like it. And if YouTube decides to throw me some hiccups and pebbles in the shoe between then, and whatever, I'll change it again. But for now, that is the new music, and I hope you enjoyed it. What else we got? Yeah, there was also apparently Andrew English noticed this royalty-free music that I was using was also the music for the radio adverts for Curry's PC World. So it was a little bit of a brand hiccup. So we, yeah, we decided to sort that out and go with something else, and hopefully enjoyed the new theme. And I hope you enjoy the new graphics as well. I like them. I think they look rather cute. What else have we got to talk about? I'm going to put that there. Also going to talk about what we're going to be talking about on this show. We're going to have interviews, which we are lining up as we speak. We do have a couple of interviews, and people are going to be coming on, and I'm really looking forward to talking to them as well. First up, next week, our first interview straight out the gate, and it seems to be the traditional way that we start the seasons, which is talking to Matt Dunford, who is the chairman for the San Diego Comic Fest, which is a smaller, more independent, think year 1, year 2, year 5 of San Diego Comic Con. It's very much a homegrown event. They have, under Matt's kind of a sphere of influence, as a man who knows his comics people, has the connections, works with, he works for Upper Deck. So you may have seen him on the floor at San Diego Comic Con this year on the Upper Deck stand. He knows his artists and he knows his people. He knows his comics history. He knows his animation history. So he's got a lot of contacts, and he has fed that as the chairman, or the acting chairman, or the chairman for that San Diego Comic Fest. He has brought in a real vibe to the show. So he's going to be joining us again as we look forward to the next San Diego Comic Fest, which is going to be taking place next month. So we're going to be giving a little bit of a preview of that, preview of what kind of theme they're aiming for this year, and also just generally keep a track on that. So that's rather cool. What else we've got? We've got the Dylans are going to be joining us. Bryant Dillon, maybe the other half as well, but they are involved in a self-publishing. They do lots of things with the community, and they really do a great job of promoting their own, promoting other people's works, but they're doing their own, and they're getting involved in a Kickstarter. And Bryant is going to be joining us, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks to talk about the upcoming project. So that's going to be rather cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking forward to talking to as many people as possible. As always, the best thing to do is, if you want to see somebody on the show, please do reach out to them and let them know. For example, we have had some people who I've wanted to get on board. I desperately tried to get yesterday's, and I kind of pestered them at San Diego Comic Con to come on the show. Because I want to talk about the relationship about a highly popular brand on the San Diego Comic Con floor, like yesterday's, and what has that done to their business? What has that done to their standing in the community? What kind of things have they had to do to kind of so like keep everything as authentic as possible, so they're not just blown up out of all proportion? Likewise with comic sketch art, hopefully going to be speaking to them as well. They're lining themselves up. There's been a bunch. Don't get me started about Distillery, because, well, Distillery have once again kind of gone into this limbo mode. I spoke to Chip at San Diego Comic Con. He was happy to talk to me. I've got a email chat line up at the moment, up and running, saying let's get this organized, and everyone keeps then going quiet and silent and goes a little bit weird but hopefully we'll get Distillery on, because I do want to talk about them and their books. I am a firm fan, considering that I will also be doing comics of the week as well. I managed to pick up one of their latest titles. There is a reason why I just did what I did with the book, which is, so for example, this is Life, which is the latest title. Brian Azzarello and Stephanie Phillips on the writing, and Daniel, how on earth you would pronounce that? How would you pronounce that? Oh, it is. I haven't got it. Oh, yeah, there you go. Daniel Jeklik? I don't know. Either way, doing some incredible work, very much like Jock in that kind of bold style. But the reason why I did it like that is the front cover. That is the back cover, and it is reversed because you have pros, cons. You have two storylines merging, and they hit right in the middle. I don't know if that's going to be a theme straight out, continuing on with the book, but if it is, that's some bold storytelling going on right there. That's Life, Brian Azzarello, Stephanie Phillips. Like I say, I'm a huge fan of Distillery, and I do want to talk to them about their books and talk to them, get them on board, and talk to them about that. So fingers crossed. Let's just wish things into the ether. Likewise with the guests that you would like to see on the show. Use the hashtag. If you could jump in on using the hashtag, certainly on Threads. Let's get it so that when I type it in, it actually appears as a trending tag, which is cobwebs, an Englishman in San Diego. Yeah. So yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Thank you. If you could use that hashtag, I would really appreciate it, because that would just allow me to kind of prove to people that we're a going concern and that we're worth talking to. So yes, considering that, the one thing that I'm asking you to do is spread those on socials and ideally on Threads, because yes, I have closed my Twitter account down. It's something that I felt was no longer applicable to me. I am a big proponent of the whole divorce yourself from the art, from the creator. So there's some support I still have for the likes of Harry Potter, because I believe it is still a valid piece of literary work, but you can't deny that its creator has turned into quite the monster. Likewise with Twitter. Twitter was a force of good. I promised when I first saw Twitter appear, I would never tweet. I would never be a tweeter. I would never be a twatter, or as I called it. I was a bit snobbish, but I did join Twitter to take part in the Easter egg hunt to get tickets for the Cowboys and Aliens world premiere at San Diego Comic Con 2011, which I did. And so it was that first year, 2010, and I took part in Twitter. At the end of the day, I developed so many friends and connections and followers off Twitter, but you can't deny it at the moment. It has just turned into Truth Social 2.0, and I'm out of there. Threads is where I'm at. Use the hashtag an Englishman in San Diego. Have I typed that out wrong? I have indeed. If you could use the correct hashtag of an Englishman in San Diego, and use it to communicate with us. I did actually. We do still have a Twitter account open. Is one that was shared to me, or one that was advised to stay open by my senior editor. The Convention Collective still has a Twitter. It's still where I share things, and I have just attempted to share this live stream to the Twitter account, which you have to have a premium account on Twitter for it to do a live stream. So there we go. That's That's out of the question. Ain't doing that. I am not putting any money into a union busting, conspiracy spouting 14-year-old child with a massive bank account and no self-control whatsoever. So there you go. That's my thoughts on him and thoughts on that, and done. We are hopefully going to be joined. Dan Berry did say that he'd be up for joining us because I'd like to talk to him about his summer and what he's been up to. We are hopefully going to be joined as well in the next few minutes by Mark Searby as well. So fingers crossed we're going to be speaking to him. Andrew English asking, is Threads an Instagram offshoot or a rebrand? It's kind of like Instagram text. It's off. So like the Insta, it's a meta. I mean, yes, you can also very easily turn around to me and say, well, it's Zuckerberg. Isn't he just as bad? Yes. However, Zuckerberg has gotten very much into the fence post, well and truly stuck up his backside and not wanting to go on either side. He's just into the data farming. So he's more about just grabbing as much data as possible, not influencing any kind of political outcome. That's done by third parties who is using his platform. That's my take on it. Elon Musk, on the other hand, is actively doing some influencing, and the things he's sharing is just not fun. And indeed, Andrew is saying, wondering why it was asking me to install Instagram using it. It uses the Instagram login. At the end of the day, it's very much a Instagram aligned platform, but Threads is where I'm at. Also, Blue Sky as well. Jump in on the comments. Where are you on your social media at the moment? Are you still on Twitter? Is Facebook? Are you watching this on Facebook? Are you watching this on YouTube? How did you find out about me coming back? Yeah, let me know. I'm not seeing, it's now 20 past, and I'm not seeing Mark, and I'm not seeing Dan. So I'm just going to very quickly have a look at the emails and just wonder where on earth they are and if they're still joining us for today. Because I'd love to. Our neighbors are saying he's watching on YouTube. Very quickly as well, I do want to talk about how our summer's been, but I also do very much want to use this show to look forward and look at events coming down the line. Aaron is involved in a very cool event, which I'm trying to remember. Is that this weekend? I think it might be. Aaron, jump in. Let us know, how has Philam Creator Con gone, or is it going? I'm under the impression it's next weekend, but I have been a little bit distracted. So yeah, let me know, Aaron. I'd love to know. So September 14th. There you go. Would love to get him on, but I don't know when now, considering it's next weekend. But if you do want to find out more about Philam Creator Con, go to Aaron's socials, go to his Threads account, check it out, because it really is so much fun seeing what he's putting together for an incredible community of creators. I got a beep in the background, and that's because I got told I'm being joined by somebody in the old live stream. Hello there, Mr. Mark Searby. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks, Leonard. How are you? That's a bright shirt for a Sunday. Blimey, look at it.
People who did catch up with me at San Diego will recognize this as one of the San Diego shirts.
Wow.
Because thanks to this new job that I've got, I'm sat at a computer and getting fatter. So I had to get a whole bunch of bigger shirts because all the shirts that I took out to San Diego, it's just suddenly I couldn't fit into. I took them out of the suitcase and went, no. Went straight off to up to Mission Valley and got myself some bigger shirts. So There
If
we
you're
go.
going to wear those
So there,
types of...
I'm blaming the job basically.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I mean, each to their own, I guess, Leonard. You know, it's entirely up to you. But if you're going to wear those types of shirts, let me know. I can put some sunglasses on. Blimey.
Hey, listen. There's no way I can grow a mustache. I can't do facial hair, but I would love to do a decent Tom Selleck impression, and sort of go for the whole Magnum PI look. I think that would work for me. So there we go. No, it's good to have you back on the show because I haven't seen you for a while with Talkin Con kind of like floating around in the background. But good to have you back. Basically, I think when we talked about you coming on, it was about what you have been up to and what you have been making of the conventions and be making of the online and pop culture kind of landscape. Where would you like to start?
It's a good question, isn't it? I mean, you already asked about 3 questions there, and then you said, where do you want to start? I mean, I guess something that me and you talk about actually quite a bit, I think, is what is sticking now? What is working for audiences? Now, obviously, this is a big subject considering this is your first show back, you know.
Yes.
But ultimately, it's something that we talk about a lot, not just me and you, but everybody who goes to a convention or everybody's into pop culture as well. Is, you know, you think back to pre-pandemic, you think back to 2019, think back to 2018, 2017, loads of things were sticking, loads of things were just massive. Everywhere you turn, there was something huge. And if you weren't watching it, why aren't you watching it? You should be watching it. It's amazing. Now, I don't know. Like, to me, it's like nobody's really recommending loads of things. People sort of mention a few things in passing, but I'm starting to wonder now if it is a case of people just got through the pandemic by watching so much TV, so many films, that they're now like, you know, there was too much and now there's way too much as well. Because on any given weekend here in the UK, there is between 9 and 15 new movies released. That's a lot of movies for anybody to catch up on. You know, I mean, I'm reviewing 3 a week, and even then I'm like, that's a lot. But I do think, have we got too much content now? Or is there enough content? It's just not of the quality we were seeing 5, 6, 7 years ago. Because, you know, obviously seeing what you had seen at San Diego and what others had seen as well, there was a lot of people who told me not a lot was standing out. And that's kind of the same at some of the conventions here as well in the UK, that not a lot is standing out. I mean, we can look at, obviously, Rings of Power being very successful at the moment. And before that, this year, what in terms of pop culture, in terms of nerd TV show and movies, what has been really popular before Rings of Power? Obviously, you know, people who are watching will probably shout out something. Great, let us know. Be really interested to know. Somebody will probably say The Acolyte or something, but I don't know. It just feels like nothing is sticking anywhere near as much as it used to. And is that we're overwhelmed with it all? Is it studios aren't promoting it as much? I don't know. It's...
I mean, for myself, it just feels like those shows that are being discussed on social media are there to be discussed on social media. It's almost like people are spending a lot of time putting what they feel into a box. Acolyte is a show that, by all accounts, wasn't necessarily highly watched on Disney Plus. It didn't necessarily have the numbers, but those that did watch it and watched it all the way to all the way through enjoyed it. It does feel, however, that on social media people are they're creating hot takes purely for hot takes. I mean, I don't know how far you've seen with your kind of social media outlet, because I know that you're not as big on your social media as much.
Well, I'm on Twitter. Twitter is the way you'll find me. I'm not calling it the other thing. It's Twitter.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, that's still a popular social media outlet, I think. And you're right about the hot takes. That happens a lot there. Hot takes for hot takes' sake. And you think, really? If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah. it does seem to be the most popular shows are the ones that are just organically growing their audience. So, for example, Ted Lasso wasn't a massive hit straight out the gate. It kind of developed its audience through word of mouth, people saying, "Oh, have you seen this thing on Apple TV?" At which point everyone turned around and went, "Apple TV? Who on earth has that?" At which point then people say, "Oh no, you need to check this out because it's quite impressive. It's great." And those that then watched it loved it, and it developed its audience organically. I think the next show you could use for that kind of example is Only Murders in the Building, which if you'd have watched that first series, not many people watched it, but those that did, again, very rabid fan base, and that is now off the back of that being able to command a hell of a cast for the latest season. Another one that I could use for that example, let's think.
There's another one, actually, thinking of it. The Bear.
Yeah.
The Bear. I mean, The Bear, I never saw the first season at all. And then the second season came around and more people were talking about it. I thought, I probably need to watch this. This sounds kind of interesting. And then I was hooked. That was it. And then suddenly, look what happens. The Bear is at San Diego Comic-Con. 5 years ago, The Bear would not have been at San Diego Comic-Con. Let's be honest. It's not that type of show that would have been there. But suddenly, it's broken out of its niche a little bit, I think, which is great. It's great that we're getting a few more things like that. But I do wonder if it's a case, I think you're probably right, is that it is going back to the old style of how we found movies and how we found TV shows, which is organically, one a week. It's building to something. I mean, listen, I like binge watching as much as the next person. I've got no problem with that. But one a week gets you talking again about it. It's,
I mean, we do have somebody in the background. I actually thought that he had no sound or camera because all we've got is that. Thank you so much for being the nebulous spectre in the background, Mr. Dan Berry. Are you there, sir? No, not even sound.
Imagine if that started talking, like that circle just started sort of waving around. Weird.
Oh, hang on. He's determined not to turn that camera on. He's rock solid on that. Are you there, Dan?
Yeah. Am I here? I don't know.
I don't know either. All I'm seeing, I mean, let's put it this way. When that to me looks like an eyeball looking right at me. That if it was a little bit redder, it'd be very 2001. It's very Hal. It's that kind of staring into my soul. But yeah, good to have you with us, Dan.
Can you hear me? I can hear you.
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hello.
So, I mean, what did you make, Dan, of, say, for example, at San Diego with the TV shows that were there and the things that were there? Was it a case of studios desperately looking for an audience, or was it just a celebration of shows with an already existing audience and fan base?
I think it was more just trying to what's what I'm looking for. Sorry, it's early still. Just going for the current audience. Not really. I mean, I don't think there was any real new shows there as far as I can remember.
Yeah. I mean, Mark was mentioning about Rings of Power. That, I believe, was just about to take off. No, so like pun intended, but Rings of Power was just about to do what it needed to do. And that had a bit of a presence at Con. But again, people were just, I think everyone's just like, no, I'm going to discover this on my own.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, maybe this is what I'm saying. Maybe we've gone back 7-8 years to the point where we're now just discovering things ourselves. We're not taking on marketing as much anymore because we're overwhelmed with marketing. And we think, okay, you're bombarding me with this. I'm not going to watch it now. I'm going to do my own thing. And some of these shows that probably didn't find it, I'll tell you a show that found its audience through very little marketing. Supercell on Netflix. See,
okay. I am now going to have to look quizzically at you. Never even heard of it.
Okay, so it is a British superhero TV series here in the UK, set in East London. It's a really good show. It's really funny, but it's also quite serious as well. I love the way it's done. There was some marketing for it, but not to the scale of anything that you would see marketing for Netflix or Amazon or anything else like that. And yet the amount of people still talking about that show, the amount of people still finding that show is really good. And I think that's probably what we're going to see, is we're going to see shows still finding its audience 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line. And, that show's only just being renewed or something like that. But actually, it's grown its audience since Netflix decided, well, is it close? Isn't it close? So there are shows out there that are still slowly growing the audience. There's a really good Twitter account. I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to look it up. Who shows every month the numbers for Netflix as to how well these new shows, how well these new shows have done. And it's fascinating viewing, because there's some stuff on there where I'm like, wow, that low for these things? And then, big stuff, I'm like, okay, I get that. But then other shows at the top where I'm like, don't even know what that is. But maybe that's the beauty of it now. Maybe that's what we are going for.
True. I mean, we're getting to the point of the year where people set up their accounts for streaming services, and now it's getting to that 12-month period, and they're now going to either let the contract lapse, or they're going to kind of decide to renew. And you usually see around September, October, when people start to, because it's obviously leading up to the kind of renewal of contracts, phone contracts, just general ways of logging back in. And people then go decide whether they're going to actually stick with a streaming service. And I know that people are starting to look at streaming very much like the old cable companies. I could be very easily persuaded to not sign up with Netflix again next time round. I think Amazon Prime is very close. It's that close to getting ditched. Disney Plus, I think I'm going to stick with, because I get the most out of Disney Plus. But yeah, I feel that we're getting to the point where we could see a real kind of shutting down of numbers, and those kind of audiences are really going to start dwindling away, in much the same way that we saw with cable TV and when cable TV was on its sort of death rattle.
I mean, you mentioned earlier about who's got Apple TV, but actually Apple TV are making some of the more interesting TV shows right now. They might not have huge audience, but there is some interesting stuff on there. And I think that is capturing audiences more. I mean, you mentioned there was the Ted Lasso, then you look at something like Silo, or you go Foundation, or, they're very specialist in their science fiction, certainly, but they've got a lot of interesting things on there. I've only just signed up with them, and I'm like, wow, didn't know they've got half this stuff on here. And I don't know what it is, but it looks really good. They're spending millions upon millions for these TV shows or these movies that nobody's seeing, because Apple TV don't seem to market anything. There you go. See, Michael P. Silo. Exactly. It's a great show. But nobody, as you said, Leonard, nobody's really got Apple. And it's kind of strange. That feels like that's a streaming service that needs a kick up the arse to get people on it. And when they do get on it, I think they will be genuinely surprised. I mean, listen, I'm not endorsing Apple products at all here, but out of the ones that we were talking about, Leonard, you're talking about Prime Video or Netflix, or we can talk about Paramount Plus, or we can talk about Max, or whatever it's called now, Max VIP. I don't know what that's called. All of these, as you said, people subscribe for a certain amount of time, then just drop them. Yeah, I think it's going to come to a point soon where people are just going to abandon something, and that will be it. But here in the UK, we don't have Max at all because HBO signed a contract with B Sky B many years ago. So a lot of HBO shows don't get shown here. The big ones do, but through Sky Atlantic. But B Sky B still have that contract running through till 2026. And then HBO are going to launch Max here. Well, that's 2 years away.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous game to play, to say we're going to launch in 2 years. What's this landscape like in 6 months? Never mind about a year. Never mind about 2 years.
Let's bring Dan into the conversation, considering that he's here, staring at me with his single nebulous eye, like Sauron. When it came to the streaming services on the con floor at San Diego, and indeed the other cons that you've been to, Dan, do you feel that they made an impression? Do you feel that they were kind of doing their best to get people signed up? Because you don't see any kind of sign-up codes. You don't see any people out there with clipboards or pads out there sort of signing people up. It seemed kind of like you wonder why the booths are there.
In all honesty, I just ignored all the streaming booths.
You see, this is where Dan... what shows do you watch?
I mostly have the TV on for background noise. I'm not really paying much attention to it. I did start watching the new season of the Amazon's Rings of Power. I need to go back when I have more time actually to watch it. I do watch The Bear, trying to some of the other shows you mentioned. I did watch Supercell. I thought it was pretty good.
There you go. That's two for three. I've never heard of it. So
see, you're out the loop here, Leonard. But Dan, let me ask you a question then. Dan, let me ask you a question. Obviously, you ignored them on the show floor, but let's say that they do take the sales tactic like what Leonard was saying of, here's a code, you get 6 months for free. Would you take it, or is it not something for you?
In all honesty, I have almost every streaming service there is, so.
That's because he's loaded.
I get a bunch of all the Disney ones I get for free through Verizon, and Apple TV I get is at low rates since I do have an iPhone, and all the other ones, between myself and the roommate we split.
So you're playing the game here, Dan. That's clever. Yeah. Yeah.
You got Solicitorous Meg jumping in on the comments. As always, everybody, the comments are here. This is your show as well. You may not be on camera, but you can always jump in with the conversation. Solicitorous Meg, I think cable is going to make a comeback. People cut the cord when Netflix was the only other option, but now there are a bunch. I think some will fail, some will buy them up and become the new cable. I mean, I think we talked about this briefly, Mark, when it actually happened. When Paramount was acquired by Skydance, of all people, at which point they turned around and said, oh, no, we're going to keep it pretty much exactly how it is, but obviously we're going to do a bit of streamlining, a bit of changing. And the people behind Paramount Plus turned around and said, well, we're going to keep Paramount Plus, and we're not only going to keep Paramount Plus, but we're going to do our best to make it the premier destination of choice, because we want to use our technology and the technology we have in place to consolidate all the other streaming services and bring them under our banner. At which point, me and you looked at each other and went, you're looking at a streaming service of your own, which you couldn't get people to sign up for. Only if you were a hardcore Star Trek fan, sorry, were you going to sign up for Paramount Plus. I can't think of any other shows on that particular network.
Well, the reason I signed up for Paramount Plus was because they've got all the Taylor Sheridan shows. You know, he's the guy who did Sicario, so Yellowstone, obviously, and 1883. And I'm a huge Taylor Sheridan fan. I think he writes very, very well. But beyond that, I mean, I had it for a whole year. The only other thing I ever watched on it was Aerial America. And then I found out after canceling Paramount Plus, it's all on YouTube. I could have cancelled it months before. So I think, yeah, the Paramount Plus thing is a very interesting beast as to what they are going to do with it, because they are very much leaning heavily now into the reality shows, I've noticed, certainly over the past year. But how do you survive in the streaming era when realistically probably the only thing that is being watched in the hundreds of millions is probably reality shows these days? So have Paramount Plus got it right?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to move off this topic because, well, I'm looking at the clock and I still want to keep this under an hour because it then asks the question, what are people doing and watching nowadays, considering that we talk about struggling to keep our attention on a show. We then have these massive years gaps between seasons because they're investing all this time and effort in making the shows. Films, we've talked about cinema as almost a dying social element. We've had a handful of successful films this year. Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine, I think, without that and Inside Out 2, we'd struggle to kind of determine what to call the biggest hits in cinema at the moment. We'll go to cinema now then. So Mark, this is your area of expertise.
Yeah.
Are people still going to the cinema then? Or are they waiting for going to a streaming service?
I think it's 50-50 now. The hardcore people who still like going to the cinema, still like sitting in the dark, still like seeing something on the big screen, are always going to go. And then you've got the people who only go for the big tentpole movies, Fall Guy, Deadpool, Wolverine, something like that, Alien Romulus, obviously. But there are a lot of people now who are like, I'll just wait 4 weeks and it'll be on some streaming service or something, and it's not something I desperately need to see on the big screen. And I think, unfortunately, studios have shot themselves in the foot a little bit by not reverting back to the pre-pandemic time frame. I mean, granted, I get it, that you can't always wait 6 months for a movie because, piracy is rife everywhere. But at the same time, look at Borderlands. So obviously, I saw Borderlands. I told you about it, Leonard. You've seen Borderlands.
I did try looking at Borderlands, and I want to bleach my eyes. Thank you.
Well, the thing is with Borderlands is that movie had the shortest shelf life in cinemas, in theaters this year. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That's all it was. Now, granted, the quality of the movie is not great, of course. But there are films out there that should have a longer tail. People were moaning about the fact that The Fall Guy was going onto digital platforms after like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever else it was. But it was still doing money in theaters. It was still doing big business on the big screen. And that's a positive for me. But the good thing about movies, and I'm talking about small movies here, is that, yes, they'll appear in smaller areas. If you're in LA or New York, of course, you're going to see all of the independent movies. But if you're in, somewhere in the middle, you're probably not going to see it. So when it goes to streaming after 3 weeks, it's really pleasing because you get to see something like that. And that's, I think, where you find some of the hidden gems. And that's what we've had this year. We've had a lot of hidden gems come forward and work very nicely. And a lot of people have been talking about a lot of different movies, whereas, years previous, we'd have been talking about the same 5 movies, probably.
At which point then, I mean, he's putting comments. Okay, he's making comments in the chat instead of actually saying out loud, considering he does have his mic on. Fall Guy, probably the first movie that was part of the SDCC licensing deal.
What's that?
Indeed. Dan, would you like to elaborate?
I know, I think about a year and a half ago, CCI SDCC signed with a company to license them. And Fall Guy did have a lot of Comic Con and Hall H references in it. So I wonder if that was part of it.
Ah.
Well, this will be the licensing deal that we've obviously heard about when it comes to third-party conventions that could be springing up under the CCI banner. So we're having the cruise that's happening at the beginning of the year. That is a third-party company using the CCI branding and a lot of the CCI muscle to create SDCC, the SDCC cruise. And that's part of the licensing deal that's been put together. That's one of the first things that we could see. We have been hearing that we could be seeing an international convention under CCI. So we don't know. So yeah, returning to cons and also bringing Dan back into it and bringing, like I say, talking about cinema and things that we can consume and things that we can watch. I think the question then becomes, where do cons fit into that? Is the era of a convention using that audience to promote something now past, and are we into an era of Comic-Cons merely just celebrating an audience they've already got? Instead of kind of breaking a show, just using it to reinforce the audience they already have.
I don't think you're going to see new shows debuting in any of the bigger rooms. Let's take San Diego, for example. I don't think you're going to see them debuting in any of the bigger rooms. They're going to always be in the smaller rooms. But I do think they're going to go for the nostalgia element now, because nostalgia is huge business. It's huge business. I mean, look at this weekend, Beetlejuice. You know, whether the film's good or not doesn't matter. It's the fact that it's doing big business based on nostalgia. And we've had a lot of movies about nostalgia.
Shall we very quickly talk that? If you want to spend 30 seconds, Mark, starting now, Beetlejuice. Go.
Oh, well, I mean, look, I talk about nostalgia. If you like the OGs from the original movie, then you'll like it. You know, obviously Keaton's fantastic in it, even though he's got little screen time. O'Hara's brilliant in everything she does. She's always funny. Ryder's great. Ortega is great as well. Natural fit. There's too many stories. It's a bit bloated on stories that are pointless. Why is Monica Bellucci in there? It's kind of pointless and whatever else. But I think it just about gets by on that OG cast, really. And look, it's very simple. If you like the first one, you're going to enjoy the second one. There's enough jokes in it as well. And here's a question for everybody who goes to see it over the next week or two. Look out for Jack Skellington.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you know, look, it's simple to say, but he is hidden in there. I saw him. I was looking. I was like, oh my God, there's Jack Skellington. But I haven't seen anywhere mention it yet.
But that's because you're highly perceptive and a man of taste and virtue, sir.
Thank you.
That was the best poker face I've ever seen in my life. Congratulations. Let's have a look at this. Chuck Cook, Paramount Plus clearly thinks there's value. They were a major sponsor of SDCC.
Wow.
Yes, they were. In much of there was a lot of the Paramount Plus content. Again, we had that huge 1.5 hour, 2 hour panel. No, 1.5 hour panel dedicated to Star Trek in Hall H on Saturday. But these were shows. I mean, there was only the 20 minutes or so that was developed or focused on a new Star Trek show. So it was very much celebrating Picard, celebrating Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, a bit of Prodigy in there as well for good measure. It's a case of whether Paramount Plus felt there was value to support new content going forward. And also, were they a major sponsor of SDCC, considering they did then provide the blandest badges ever seen at San Diego Comic-Con? So they kind of shot themselves on the foot on that one. Indeed, Dan saying major sponsor, not a major graphics department. So a little bit. Indeed, Chuck's backing us up on that. The badges were heinous. They were terrible. Solicitous Meg is saying Beetlejuice would have done better as a 6 to 10 episode on Netflix. Although he has spelt it Beetlejuice, so I would like to have seen a John Lennon ghost series appearing on Netflix. I think that would work well.
Yes.
With Catherine O'Hara starring as Yoko Ono, that'd be rather entertaining. Well, there we go.
But I mean, but like literally going back to the question is, it does feel now like conventions certainly are heavily leaning on the nostalgia element. I'm curious to know if people in the US who go to other conventions outside of San Diego, when they go, how much new content they're actually seeing. I'm not talking about on the exhibit hall floor or anything else like that. I'm talking about, in the rooms. What are they showing? This is the thing, because I wouldn't know what studios would be taking anything. Very difficult to know. I mean, to me, if I was Warner's, I would have taken the Lord of the Rings, the animated movie, to San Diego. Seems like a sensible place.
I was surprised that we didn't see anything about Terminator and Terminator Zero.
Yeah, exactly. You see, but once again, you're then preaching to the choir already, but that's fine, because that gets so many people in, but you need to break out of that. So I'm curious to see how new shows, new films are going to break into the pop culture event, basically.
Yeah. Let's have a look at this. Other comments that are coming up. People are still talking about the badges. So mission accomplished. Yes. Okay. I think the next sponsor then should just create a post-it note and just go insert company here, and just there you go. People will talk about that. Film before Beetlejuice was Indian Romulus. Very disappointed. No sign of Romulans. Andrew, you don't ever disappoint me, sir. Don't ever disappoint me. Right, we are going to wrap things up because this was the first episode back. We just sort of like saying hello and getting back into it. Do want to talk about very quickly the Convention Collective. We have not had an article from Mark on the site for quite a considerable length of time. Will we be seeing anything on exclamation mark in the near future?
Pass.
Pass.
No,
and
no,
Danbury,
no, no. It's
no.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. No, I will. Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I mean, I've not been to conventions because probably
I was about
like
to
a
say,
lot of people.
what is your next convention? Are you going to be going to MCM?
I will go to MCM at the end of October, yes, because I've not been for 2 years. And part of that is because nothing's lit my fire in terms of going, oh, wow, great. And I always go to MCM, but I mean, this is a bigger question about cons and what they're delivering nowadays. But I will go. I feel like I haven't been in ages as well. That's the thing. And yet after the pandemic, 2021, when they first started up and it was like this weird tentative thing, it was actually kind of fun, even though we were all about 10 foot away from each other. It was kind of fun, and then they sort of lost their way, and then I don't know, it's that Reed Pop thing, isn't it? There's a bigger discussion there about them, I think.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Dan, what shows are you going to be going to? I'm presuming New York is on the cards, but is there any other conventions that you've got lined up for 2024?
Baltimore the weekend after next, LA Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, trying to think what else, San Diego Comic Fest. I think that's it.
Indeed. Very curious to see what you make of Baltimore, because there's two shows that I would love to go to. It's Baltimore. I'd love to go to Dragon Con, because the way it was described to me was, people said, what's the vibe like against San Diego Comic Con? So, well, San Diego Comic Con's the Beatles. Dragon Con is Led Zepp. It's all the way to 11. It's a little bit hardcore. It's when they're posting pictures of that hotel, central, lobby, and it's 4:00 in the morning, and people are still drinking and still yeah, it's a bit hardcore. Wouldn't mind going to that. For myself, I will be going to Thought Bubble. The idea is that at the end of this month, I'll be attending Lakes, but fingers crossed on that one. It's a bit of a journey, but there's some people there I really wouldn't mind seeing. I also want to test drive the new interview equipment as well, so fingers crossed on that one.
Going back to Dragon Con.
That's pretty much my convention. I'm very sorry.
Going back to Dragon Con, I think the best way of comparing it to San Diego Comic Con. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So San Diego Comic Con is prom. Dragon Con is Mardi Gras. I think that's the best way of describing them.
I like it. I like it.
And I was at Dragon Con this year, and that's a pretty well way to describe it.
Nice.
I would like to go to Dragon Con, if anything, so that I could see just how much damage I could do to my liver before I die.
It does sound. Do you know what, though? The thing is, the way that everybody's describing it doesn't sound like it should be called Dragon Con. It should be called Drunk Con.
Yeah, I've no problem with that.
No, me neither. Sounds great.
Yeah. Chuck reminds us it is held in the TVA as well, so it's a lot bigger than it looks. So you never know. What we may be seeing is like conventions from 10 years ago, or indeed all conventions from now till eternity, just all in one space. That's the pictures that we're seeing, because it is the TVA, and time works different. And indeed, DrunkCon is in the evening. Oh, I see. There's a delineation.
Oh.
There's an actual. Oh yeah, there's PoliteCon and then DrunkCon. I'm down with that.
The con officially began Thursday afternoon, but Wednesday, technically Thursday at midnight, there was thousands of people already in the main hotel.
Crazy stuff.
It is not
Excellent.
like any other con you've been to.
Hey, listen, I want to find a drunk con here in the UK where, you know, someone isn't going to get cancelled the following morning. That was Lakes when it was in Kendall, but you know they've calmed down now. Anyway, right. Other things as well that we can kind of very quickly touch on before we move on is, of course, what we have got lined up moving forward for San Diego Comic Con, because for the first time they have decided what they're going to do is actually release the dates, and they did this over the weekend of San Diego Comic Con, this con just gone, which is the returning attendees and first-time attendees badge sales.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we've got ourselves September 21st, not that far away to go now, 2 weekends to go. We are going to be having a returning badge sale. It's going to be for anyone who purchased a Comic-Con 2024 attendee badge and did not request a refund. So that is all lined up. And we also know the dates as well for first-time attendees, the badge sale, which is October 26th. So a month's space between the two. And that's when we'll know. And it'll all be lined off and it'll be done and dusted. That's the badge sales. We will be doing a little bit of a special show leading up to the badge sale. But it is now a case of getting yourself your teams lined up. Mark, will we see you ever at San Diego Comic-Con once again?
When they make it cheaper.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought
not the badges. Not the badges. The badges I think are respectably priced, but when the hotels are cheaper.
Fair enough. And in that case, you're going to have to room up with me. And I need the help to bring my room price down.
I mean, that's going to go one of two ways. That is going to either be Dragon Con in San Diego, or it's going to be ending up in some sort of brawl.
Both is good.
I will throw your flat cap out of the window as well. Fair
enough. I say don't promise. Don't threaten me with a good time. all I
I mean, listen. In all honesty, I'd love to come back. I really would. But you know, as we all know, we're living in a, the money is just not there these days, unfortunately. And to come half the
Indeed.
world away, it is difficult. And I'm sure Dan Berry still owes me a pint from 2018, so I've got to come at some point.
Well, I mean, he's saying so. Dragon Con or Waffle House at SDCC. So he's clearly he's pitching his own Comic-Con experience. So yeah. Right. I think what we'll do is then we'll leave it there, and we'll kind of talk about what we've got lined up for future cons and future events. Mark, what have you got coming down the pipe? Considering somebody has actually asked, what is not Mark's next book that he's going to be promoting?
I don't have a new book. I really don't. Thank you for the question, though, Andrew.
He really has been too busy, hasn't he?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I've got a new podcast. I say new. It's been running a year now, actually, which is all about the work of Al Pacino. That's available on all podcast platforms. But no new book. I don't have the time anymore. Not a young guy anymore. I like, don't have the energy to write a 600-page book.
Well, I mean, Andrew English is saying it's a good thing he's sitting down, because otherwise he'd be on his feet. That's the way it is. And for yourself, Dan, I mean, hopefully tomorrow, the conventioncollective.com, the homepage will be going live again, and I'll be posting twice a day for various things throughout the course of the day, because my daytime job, it doesn't really keep me occupied at all. So I'm able to post as much as I possibly can on conventioncollective.com. And thankfully, there's nobody who's going to dob me into any of my bosses who's on this live stream. So I'm okay. I think I'm all right.
And we've already begun our Dragon Con coverage. The first article went up today.
Excellent.
And we've got lots more articles coming.
Well, I mean, like I say, hopefully the redesign and some other bits and pieces and new features will be live on the conventioncollective.com as of tomorrow morning. So please do head over to the conventioncollective.com for more information on that. Let's have a look at this. Solicitor Smeg is saying, with SDCC sales so early, Hotel Apocalypse probably happening in February. Yeah, I think they will kind of get it sorted sooner rather than later. But the other question you have to ask then is, what's the relationship with the hotels in San Diego, and has that been repaired? Has any of that to and fro that happened with David Glanzer and CCI and the hotels, did that hurt their relationship? And what we will expect from the hotels going forward? Are they going to be a little bit more spiteful, or are they going to actually start playing ball? We will find out, and hopefully we'll find out sooner rather than later. So that's us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Just wanted to say thank you very much indeed to Dan. All the very best to you, sir. Thanks for tuning in and actually saying something instead of commenting on the comments, even though you did that anyway.
Welcome.
So thank you very much indeed for joining us. And Mark, so good to have your shiny, happy face on the podcast. Hopefully we'll get you back at some point between now and, I don't know, July next year. That would be nice.
I'll tell you what, I'll come on and tell you about MCM after I've been.
Well, this is all depending on whether I can go as well, because I'd like to, but it's a case of me actually paying for a ticket because, well, they've decided to knock us back for press this year, and indeed knock a lot of people back for press at MCM. So, no, it looks like the conventions are feeling that they don't need promoting anymore. They just want to do their own thing. So who knows? But Mark, Dan, thank you so much, Steve, for coming on. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to see each other again soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good.
Oh, no worries. Take care. So there you go. Mark and Dan talking about stuff and kind of like getting ourselves kind of a lay of the land. That was a bit of a State of the Union kind of address, really, between the three of them. But thank you very much indeed to Dan and to Mark for joining us. We are going to be back in force next week. This has been kind of like a way of brushing off some of the cobwebs and getting back into it, sort of sorting out lighting, sorting out the cameras. We've got a new camera, we've got new sound. Hopefully the sound's been half decent. But we are going to be returning next week with a couple of features that we started last season, and I do want to continue back with that. Number one is socials of the week. We'll be promoting social media accounts, which I feel need a little bit more of an eyeball on them. So, of course, if you do want to suggest any kind of social media account that you feel deserves to have more people looking at it, do use the hashtag cup of tea in Englishman in San Diego, AEIASD. Jump in on that and tag somebody. Let me know, and so I can see them, and I can hopefully spread the word here on Talkin Con. And we'll be doing our best to do comics of the week as well. Slightly difficult for myself because I am back into a rhythm of buying my comics every month when I can afford it. However, like I say, I'm going to do my best to kind of showcase some books. I mean, on my current reading at the moment, like I say, well, good to have a Scotty Young in the collection. So Predator versus Black Panther, but the variant covers he's done for Aliens versus Avengers being rather entertaining to read. We do have, of course, the Searby books at the moment. So Life is a book that I'm currently looking at. I haven't read it yet, but we do have issue number 2 of White Boat as well from Scott Snyder and Francesco Francavilla. I enjoyed that when I was reading that first issue, so looking forward to issue number 2. Good to have Department of Truth back. So we've got the new arc for that starting with the latest issue with 24, came out a couple of weeks ago. Also coming out a week or so ago was Nice House by the Sea. So that's a book, another book I can recommend. That's the next arc in the Nice House series from James Tinian and Alvaro Martinez Bueno and Jody Belair from Image Comics, DC Black Label, which is a sequel to Nice House by the Lake. Very, very cool book indeed. And then, last but not least, is this, which I'd like to thank Dan Berry for bringing to my attention. This was a galley version, which was given to people who attended the American Library Association convention that took place at the San Diego Convention Center. They are very expensive tickets to get your hands on, but if you do get to go through the door, they just throw out comic books left, right, and center, and these are pre-releases. This comes out, I believe, in November. I would highly recommend it when it finally drops, because what Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Han are doing at the moment with this book, very impressive indeed. Comes out, like I say, in November. I will be speaking to Kieran Gillen when he appears at Thought Bubble, and I'll be doing some interview work with him at that show. So, yeah, so that's what's on my reading list at the moment. I'm going to be rereading They Call Them Giants again because I had a lot of fun with that particular book. But that's us. Thank you very much indeed. Next week, we are going to be talking to Matt Dunford, who is the chairman of the San Diego Comic Fest, talking about what he's got planned for the show, the guests that he's got coming, and also how that show's evolving now that it's changing venue, and how it's finding itself, because it was a show, or is a show, that very much celebrates legacy creators and legacy properties. But is that a show then that he feels is very much sitting in the current place and landscape of conventions, which does seem to be celebrating legacy and established audiences? So we'll be talking to Matt about that. 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock, 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern, and 6 o'clock in the evening next Sunday. Hopefully you can join us, and I will be back into some kind of rhythm as we return to Talkin Con. Thank you very much indeed for joining us for this first episode back. I promise I'll be in some kind of better state next week, and we'll see how we do with the show going forward. If you've got any suggestions, anything that you want us to do with Talkin Con, this is your show, and we want to find out what your ideas are for it. Would you like us to add any special features? Would you like us to add any... What would you want us to do? How would you like us to evolve the show going forward? Because I don't want to do the same thing. I want to kind of keep it changing and keep evolving. Definitely want to get some more guests on, that's for sure. But use the hashtag cup of tea, an Englishman in San Diego, or just messages on all the socials. Leave a comment down below if you're not watching this live. And yeah, let us know what you would like to see from Talkin Con going forward. It's time for a drink, I think. So I'm going to go and start my beer con now and wrap up my weekend. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I will see you next Sunday for Talkin Con as we continue season 12. From me to you, thank you very much indeed. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.